This is meteorologist Marissa Walls in here tracking this big winter storm that is moving across the country. You can see it here on the map, and it is going to be impacting our weather for about the next 24 to 36 hours. If you're just joining again, meteorologist Marissa Walls in here in the 7 First Alert Weather Center to give you the latest update on the storm system and even some changes that have been made. Get your questions in. You can ask them, of course, and I will try to answer them for you too. We have updated snowfall totals just a bit. I've bumped things up just a little more based on the latest track of this system and then how it kind of moves on through tomorrow. You'll see a number and you'll be like, oh my gosh, but honestly, there's not much of a change overall in forecasted totals. The gradient just gets a little bit tighter with some higher amounts farther south. But let's take a look again, big system across the area and what you can expect. All right, it's big. We have snow to the north, the purple color, that's sleet, the pink, that's freezing rain, and then of course we do have storms and rain with the green color here. Unfortunately, yes, locations in the southeast are going to be dealing with icy conditions and a lot of ice accumulation on trees that could unfortunately lead to a lot of power outages. Then also a lot of areas to our south are going to be dealing with heavier amounts of snow. That's where totals are going to be potentially more than a foot of snow in some spots, maybe even more than that. We're not going to see that, but we are still going to see quite a bit of some snow. So you can see where the snow is now. Let's backtrack a bit and take a look here at where our snow is at this moment. Right now we do have light amount of snow that isn't necessarily making it to the ground down through Lenawee and Monroe counties. We do have a lot of dry air in place that has to be overcome first by the moisture before we eventually get the snow down to the surface, but we are eventually going to see that. So I do expect snow showers to increase as we move into tonight. This is the graph model, which is one of the many weather models that you can use, but there is now a lot of agreement amongst all of the models in kind of how this plays out. So overnight tonight we will have scattered snow showers. You can see still a lot of the snow will be to our south. There's going to be some breaks here or there. So by the time you wake up tomorrow morning, you're likely going to have at least a new inch of snow on the ground, especially if you live south of I-96. But then we could even have some pockets farther south than that that are already getting closer to 2 inches. Pretty much though, after about 8 o'clock in the morning, we will have steadier snow showers across the entire area all the way through the day. This is the lunch hour. You can see widespread snow across southeast Michigan. As we continue through the afternoon, also looking at a lot of snow rolling on through, and this is a look at about 5 o'clock, still quite a bit of snow. It's not until we get closer to about 8 p.m. that we start to see the snow end across the area and then really move out after about 9 o'clock or so. So if you notice, the snow started to pick up around 8 a.m. and then it doesn't really move out until about 8 p.m. That's 12 hours of snow falling across the area. Now at times it'll be lighter, at times it'll be heavier, and we're most likely going to have our heaviest or steady snow throughout the afternoon tomorrow. That's when we're going to see our highest accumulation, so especially between about 1 and 7 p.m. tomorrow. So if you do absolutely have to go somewhere, honestly, it's not going to be great anytime that you go, but really the afternoon and evening, if you can stay inside, that's where we're going to have some of our highest accumulations. And of course, that's harder for road crews to keep up with as that snow continues to fall. So that's what we're looking at. Again, you saw the timing there. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. All right. And then the snow moves out, but we'll have a chance for a little bit of lake effect snow up near Lake Huron. So for those of you in Port St. Lake down towards Port Huron, you may get a little bit more snow as we move into Monday. But let's get to the totals. You saw them posted earlier. I have up to the totals a bit. Now again, this isn't actually too much different than what we were originally going. We had the 5 to 7 inches of snow mainly south of I-94 and then stretching down through Monroe County. So yes, the 5 to 7 inches has been bumped north a little bit more. So again, originally, I should not have ate food before this. Originally, this 5 to 7 kind of cut off right around here. We have extended it a little bit farther to the north. I do expect more of us to get closer to that 5 to 6 inches of snow rather than getting closer to 3 to 4 inches of rain, which most of the spots, mainly from southern St. Clair County and through Oakland County, fell under originally. Then a little bit farther to the south, yes, this is the number that I was talking about, 7 inches plus. There is a good chance that we are going to see the heaviest snow here in Monroe County, even including very southeastern Wayne counties, where a lot of places will get close to 7 inches. and there could be some pockets that get closer to 8 or maybe even a little bit more. I don't want to say 9 because I think that's the far reaching end, but more so 7 to maybe 8 inches of snow by the time this is all done and over with. And then again, that's mainly southern Wayne County and then into Monroe County and maybe even a portion of Lenawee County. But a majority of us, I think, are more so looking at the 5 to 7 inches. And then you can see as you get farther to the north and west, it's more so 3 to 5 inches, just because you're on the very edge of the storm system itself and farther from some of the steadier bands that are more likely to happen in the range where we're looking at the 5 to 7 and then even a little bit more than 7 inches. So we are looking at quite a bit of snow across the area for your Sunday. Again, most of this accumulation that you're seeing here will happen between about 1 and 7 p.m. on your Sunday. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have snow around this, but we're really going to see the snow pile up during that time. So because of that, and also recent events, hopefully crews are prepared, but we may have some closures as you get into Monday just because the snow is looking to be quite a bit. Now, most of the snow will be done by 8 o'clock, and you could say, you know, there are 10 hours that the snow could be cleared, but of course that isn't always the case, and we could see some impacts for Monday morning for the commute or schools being closed, so keep an eye on that. But yes, if you're just joining me looking at this map, I have bumped up snowfall totals just a bit. It looks more drastic than it actually is. More of us are included in the 5 to 7 range because I do expect more of us to see definitely 5 to 6 inches of snow instead of the closer to 3 to 4 inches. And this is mainly from St. Clair County, most of Macomb County, and then down through Oakland and even Washtenaw County. This is the area right here where you've got that white line that originally we were going more so about, it was in the 3 to 5 range because we were expecting more places to get around 4 inches, but I'm expecting more 5 to 6 inches now in that range. So bumping that up a little bit farther to the north. And then of course you have this area where we're likely to have intense band of snow in through the afternoon that will bump totals closer to that 7 inches and maybe even up to 8 inches of some snow. Still, the heaviest is expected to be to the south of us as the storm rolls on through, but we are still looking at some impactful snow across the area. So if you don't have to go anywhere on Sunday, please don't. If you do have to go somewhere, it's still going to be slippery throughout the morning, but it should be a little bit better in the morning than it will be later in the day. Of course, hopefully you don't have to travel any long distances, because that just means longer and longer times it's going to take you to get some places because road conditions aren't going to be good for longer times as you're on the road. Real quick, there might be some confusion on what we've got going on in terms of advisories and warnings. So right now, Monroe County is the only county here in Southeast Michigan that is under the winter storm warning. This is because snow is expected to be those higher totals. I did put 9 on there just because there is the potential that we may have 1 spot or 2 spots get to that total, but I do expect more places within the county to be closer to that 7 to 8 inches of snow. I know you see also the 5 there. That's because very northwestern Monroe County will be actually under the lighter amounts. Okay, most of us are under the winter weather advisory. Not all of us start at 5 a.m. Some places actually start at 9 a.m. That's farther to the north, but honestly, timing does not matter on this sense. It's the amounts of snow. We'll see 3 to 7 inches. You might be thinking that's a big range. Well, you saw earlier with the snowfall totals, lighter amounts will be to the northwest, heavier amounts to the southeast. So again, this was issued by the National Weather Service, just so you're not confused. Yes, a majority of us are in the winter weather advisory. Monroe County's under the winter storm warning. Lapeer and Sanilac County, you're not under anything. However, I do expect to see some snow for you tomorrow. Totals will be more so about 1 to 3 inches. However, we'll likely see some steadier amounts towards the lake. So still expect some winter impacts, winter driving condition. You're not missing out on this storm. You just weren't included in the advisory, and that was an issue by us. So just to clarify, even though you might be in these spots, we're all going to see snow for your Sunday. But before we get back on this, get your questions rolling and I'll let those come in. But let's take a look at temperatures. Yes, it was cold today. This is a look at our low temperatures this morning. Gosh, it was cold. These are not wind chills. We were very cold this morning. I do want to double check the Ann Arbor temperature that came in at 20 below zero. Detroit officially 10 degrees below zero. You might think that will set a record, but no, the record will still stand at 13 degrees below zero. But it was definitely cold. It's the coldest we've been in 7 years. We haven't seen temperatures this cold since 2019. If you remember that, it was of course bitterly cold. Also something to note, yes, it was very cold today. Today is actually our average coldest day of the year. Our average high is 32, our average low is 18. Obviously, we weren't anywhere near our average low temperature. We were colder than that by 28 degrees. And honestly, our high temperatures really weren't that much warmer. Let's take a look at our highs real quick today. Across the area, yeah, none of us made it to single digits today. 6 was the high officially in the city of Detroit. Our warmest spot, Troy, at 8 degrees. I was out and about this afternoon walking, into work and stuff, and I did think, which was kind of crazy to think, man, it doesn't feel as bitterly cold. Like I could breathe a little bit easier, but still single digits, definitely cold, still very dangerous as well. To wind chill values around this time, we're also still around about 0 degrees this afternoon, up to even a little bit colder than that. So please still limit time outside, because unfortunately our weather isn't looking any warmer. Sometimes when you get big systems like the one that's coming through tomorrow, we see kind of a change in the overall pattern. We mix things up a bit. Unfortunately not. This system is going to come through and we're still going to have Arctic air in place. So I'm actually going to jump ahead before we take a look at the system so you're able to look at the 7-day forecast, because the 7-day forecast is not ideal. As you can see here, as this loads on up, I know it takes its time here on this computer over here, but we are unfortunately looking at a long stretch of cold temperatures, bitterly cold temperatures, temperatures well below average for the rest of the month. These are almost the final days, or actually these are the final days of January. We're looking at highs in the teens. We may sneak 20 degrees on Tuesday. We may also sneak that again next weekend, but honestly still cold. And then our overnight lows or into the mornings will be near 0 each and every morning. Wind chill values too do have the potential to drop to 15 degrees below 0. The best chance for that as of right now looks to be Tuesday morning, and then again on Friday morning with some slightly stronger winds potentially across the area. So keep that in mind. We are not done with the bitterly cold conditions and dangerously cold conditions across the area, even though we're going to get through this snowstorm that'll roll on through. That also leads to the fact that, of course, we have the snow coming through. We'll have snow plows out and about, but salt is really going to struggle to be effective on the snow across the area, not only after it falls tomorrow and into tomorrow night, but for the next week. We should get some sunshine in the mornings, a couple of these mornings, which will help melt some of the snow, icy kind of conditions on sidewalks and roadways, but ice is really going to struggle to be melted by salt for the next week, not just the next day, but the next week. All right, let's see what we've got going on. Some questions coming in. So we got specifics on locations. When is the snow going to stop? Have that question. Oh yeah, well, someone already answered that. Thank you for doing that. Rick, heat wave in February. The thing about February is it's looking to be a better chance of near average temperatures as we get into February. But, our averages will be back in the 30s. And honestly, after what we've had so far and what we're going to see next week, it is going to feel much warmer. Can you imagine what 30 degrees will feel like? That just sounds perfect right now. It sounds so warm. But unfortunately, we don't have that coming in the next week, which is, again, unfortunate. But right now, radar's trying to pick up some snow out there, but it's running into dry air, so a lot of this is not reaching the ground. We may have a couple flurries, but overall, I really don't expect the snow to pick up until we move later into tonight, mainly after midnight tonight. You can see, though, there is snow just off to our south in through Ohio and Indiana right now. When you get the darker blues, that's indicating some steadier bands of snow. The white is the lighter amounts. But this storm system is big, so there's a lot of snow, obviously, through Illinois right now, and then even back towards Missouri. We keep going back all the way into Nebraska and Oklahoma and Texas and Arkansas. They're looking at snow too. The Dallas area has been having sleet and snow and even some freezing rain at times. So this system is very big. As we zoom out, you can see it. It honestly stretches all the way back. You can almost include Arizona if you want in this. And then it stretches all the way now, those final leading showers, actually not final showers, the leading edge of this, all the way now to the Atlantic Ocean. So a very big system, very wide system as well. It's roughly 2,000 miles wide, which is crazy big. So if you think about it, this system is 2,000 miles wide. North and south, it's more about 1,000 to 1,500 miles. But any shift, we're talking like 50 miles, 100 miles, which in a system that is that big is not very much. It will drastically change kind of where our snowfall cutoff is, because For us, we are right on that edge of snow, and it's a pretty tight snow gradient expected snowfall. So I'll get into more on that in just a bit. But again, this is a very big system that is moving across the entire country. We are on the northern edge of this system, but we are still expecting quite a bit of snow. No, we're not expecting the crazy totals that some other places are with the 1 foot to even more than 2 feet of snow in spots. Our totals will be more kind of what we would see with a winter storm. But again, snow for us will really start to pick up after midnight tonight, but the showers initially will be more scattered. So the snow has to overcome some dry air. If you've been out and about at all, not only is it cold, but it's also very dry. The column of air has to become saturated before we get the precipitation to make it to the ground. So that's why sometimes, in warmer times, we have what's called virga. So the rain is falling and you can see the striations in the cloud, but it never makes it to the ground. So it's like a similar kind of idea of that, is the snow tries to make it to the ground, but it's running into a lot of dry air, so it actually doesn't make it to the ground. It evaporates before it reaches the ground. So that's what we're kind of looking at. But eventually, as that snow continues to fall, that column of air eventually becomes saturated, and then the snow makes it to the ground. So that's what's going to be the process as we head into tonight. We're going to try to overcome the dry air. We'll have scattered snow showers on and off, with some places picking up already an inch of snow by tomorrow morning. There could also be some spots up to 2 inches, and this will be mainly south of I-96 overnight tonight. But then after that, pretty much after 8 o'clock in the morning, we are looking at snow showers all the way through 8 p.m., about 12 hours of some snow. So as we put this into motion, you can see the snow continuing to move on through. We'll likely have a couple of breaks, at least initially, but by the time we get to the lunch hour, widespread snow. A reminder again, the darker the blue that you see here, the steadier snow. So we do have this kind of band on that extent from the north east to the southwest of some of the steadier snow already starting around the lunch hour. Then as we play through the afternoon, that is when we're going to have the steadiest snow across the area. If you notice, still more of that darker blue band that moved on through, and then not as much off to the north and west. So we'll continue to see that. This is 5 o'clock Sunday, and then as we continue into Sunday night, 7 o'clock, western half of our region starts to see the snow end, and then by 9 o'clock it is all out of here. So pretty much again, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. though is when we're really going to have our our snow falling across the area, and then the steadiest snow, breaking that down a little more, and when we have the steadiest snow, we'll have the highest accumulation. That'll be in the afternoon tomorrow between about 1 and 7 p.m. So that's when we'll start to see our totals go up. All right, let's take a look at our snowfall total map. Again, totals have been bumped up a bit, mainly bumped a little bit to the north. And I don't want this to be shocking and be like, oh, Marissa came in and she really shifted everything all over the place and it's crazy. Really, it's not. What I did change here is that more of us are in this 5 to 7 range than were previously in this 5 to 7 range. And this is mainly from Port Sanilac down through Macomb County, Oakland County, and Washtenaw County. This is where initially you were in the 3 to 5 range because we were expecting snowfall to be about 4 to 5 inches, but now it's looking more like we'll see 5 to 6 inches within this range. So if you notice, it's not a lot more snow now that you're in the 5 to 7 range. It's likely another inch to up to 2 inches more than what you were previously looking at. So it's not a crazy big jump, even though that more places are in the 5 to 7 range that were previously into the 3 to 5 range, but it's just because there's a better chance to get that 5 to 6 inches of snow rather than 4 to 5 inches. So I don't want you to be kind of caught off guard and have that extreme total. Also here you see Monroe County, which was originally just in the 5 to 7 range. I do have 7 plus now because there's a much better chance, especially Monroe County and then southern Wayne County, that it's going to be more like 7 to 8 inches of snow. There may even be a spot or two that pushes 9. So again, not a drastic jump. Visually it might look jarring, but it's not a big jump from that 5 to 7 range. There's just a much better chance based on the latest track of the storm that it's going to be 7 to 8 inches rather than the 6 to 9 inches. So again, minor adjustments, adding on an inch or two of snow across the area. So I just don't want you to be too thrown off by the numbers here. Still, it's a relatively tight gradient, I will say. You know, if you think about it, from just south of Detroit to Flint, you're looking at anywhere from 7 inches to 3 inches of snow. That's a 4-inch difference in snow in a distance that's roughly 60 miles, which is not that much. So you're gonna see spots, if you're in that 3 to 5 range, you might get 6 inches of snow. And if you're in that 5 to 7 range, you might get 4 inches of snow. So you're gonna see those little variations, just because this is a relatively tight gradient in the snowfall, because we're on that edge of the storm. If we honestly were a little bit farther south, it's easier to say that a lot more of us are going to see this bigger total, but we're on the edge of the storm. You just think about it, when you're on the edge of a walk-in pool, you don't have to go very far and then you're at a foot. You don't have to go very far and then you're at 2 feet of water if you're in that gradual entrance. So that's kind of what we're looking at. It's a gradual gradient because we're on the edge of the system. I don't know, was that a good analogy? Tell me. You can tell me if it wasn't. But anyways, that's what we're looking at with this system here. All right, let's see what else we got coming in Yeah, someone asking about schools. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments here. That's what I'm looking over here on this side. Nancy making a joke about Mother Nature. Yeah, it has definitely been a year. It has definitely been, I think it's been, I was going to say it's been a January, but it has been a year overall. We have had some big swings in weather this year. And unfortunately, with this really Arctic air just in place, and a big storm coming across the country. Honestly, one of the reasons the storm is so big is because you do have this Arctic air in place. So that's why the snow shield of the system is so big. And then you've got the moisture originally coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. And then as the storm gets closer to the East Coast, then you're going to have the moisture coming in from the Atlantic Ocean. So that just fuels the storm itself. And that's why you're looking at some steady totals. Not only to mention, too, you've got the Appalachian Mountains that you can get some cold air damming. And when you have Arctic cold air getting dammed, that will just lead to sleet or snow just dumping in locations. So that's what we're looking at in some spots over there. They have it way worse, I would say, than us in terms of precipitation and totals. For us, though, we definitely have a really good winter storm with expected totals. I like to gauge our winter storms. Is it the nuisance snow? Is it that 1 to 2 inches where honestly it is so frustrating because it makes the road slippery, it slows things down, but really it's not, and it's a snow that you have to shovel, but it's not one of those snows that really make you kind of stop for a moment. This storm, though, is one of those storms that you are going to want to stop. You're going to want to stay inside if you can, for especially the afternoon tomorrow and into the evening, because we will have steady amounts of snow across the area. Wait until the snow is done and then shovel or use your snow blower too. And then, though, maybe this is one of those snows that you do those 2 shovels. If you've got that, you shovel once you've got like 3 inches on the ground, and then you shovel again too. I always think about my dad. My dad used to always do that. He used to wake up sometimes at 4 a.m. shovel, and then once the snow stopped at 7 a.m. he'd shovel again. So I laugh because I always think of him, and then I always think, I would do the same thing too. So yeah, let's see. So I've got a lot of questions about snowfall totals. Hopefully you know where you live on this map. I really don't want to go city by city just because I think that's a little time consuming, of course, here. Best thing to know is if you live south of Detroit, you're looking at likely 5 to 7 inches of snow. Heavier amounts closer to Monroe. North of the city of Detroit, you're still looking at roughly 3 to 7 inches of snow, but steadier amounts farther east than west. That's the best way to kind of sum all this up too. If you notice, you might be noticing, well, it's doing this little weird thing, the blue color here up towards the thumb. What you're noticing right here is the fact that we'll get a little bit of lake enhancement most likely, and then also there'll be some lake effect Sunday night into Monday, so that'll add into a little bit of snow there. But overall, that's why that total is closer to 3 to 5 inches, and it does that weird kind of hook shape up towards the thumb. I'm trying to mimic because I know I'm mirrored here, so up towards the thumb in that sense. Let's see. Any questions that you guys have for me about this system, about what we can expect? I know a lot of schools have been closed recently for various things, whether it's the snow, whether it's the cold temperatures. Looking ahead towards the week, I think we're actually going to have more school closures. I think Monday school closures would be because of this snow. Hopefully, though, because of the snow expected, we do have more road crews prepared for this. What happened about 2 weeks ago, and yes, of course, we all know what happened. We were forecasting about 1 inch of snow, and a lot of places, or I think was it 1 inch to 2 or 3 inches, I've already blocked it. in my mind. But we obviously got a lot more snow. It was a Wednesday night, happened during the commute. And then we just all weren't prepared. Honestly, meteorologists, road crews, we were not ready for this. The front stalled as it moved on through. It went so slow. And then that led to a lot of closures on Thursday morning because there were not road crews out and staff to kind of clear stuff out. And that was just because of a poor forecast. So this time around, hopefully with this forecast expected, we've had totals of at least 3 to 5 inches for a couple days now. Of course, we've upped it just a bit today. That crews will be out. Snow will be done around 8 o'clock tomorrow night, so that does leave quite a few hours that roads could be cleared. Unfortunately, salt is not going to be effective in this case, so it's really going to be snow plows that'll be out and about clearing roads, so that may help fewer schools be canceled. I don't have a say in that as well. School districts talk to various meteorologists, they talk to the National Weather Service, so that's kind of how they give their call on the situation. But I can tell you that districts may call Sunday night, may call school off for Monday, but snow will be done almost completely by 8 p.m. on Sunday. There will be a little bit of lake effect north, but that's it. Otherwise, we're going to be done with the steadiest snow by that point. So hopefully that helps. Aside from that, though, there is the potential that we may also have schools closed next week because of cold temperatures. I want you to take a look at the 7-day forecast again. I mentioned this earlier, so if you're just joining, unfortunately, usually when we get big systems, I'm taking myself off so you're able to see the 7-day. When we get big systems, it usually kind of helps mix things up and we see a change of the overall pattern. Unfortunately, we're not. As you can see for this upcoming week, after we get through the system tomorrow, our temperatures still are cold. We're looking at highs in the teens. Now we may make it up to 20 degrees in a few spots, but our lows are going to be near 0. So anytime you get a wind, it can be a 5-mile-per-hour wind, a 10-mile-per-hour wind. Wind chills when temperatures are at 0 immediately are much colder. We're looking at wind chills about 10 below 0 or even colder than that. Our 2 coldest mornings next week as of right now look to be Tuesday morning with our wind chills, where wind chills could be 15 below, and then also Friday morning where our wind chills could be about 15 below again. And from previous history, of course, what we had this past week, school districts are closing when wind chills are 15 below 0. So keep that in mind. We may have additional closures this week. It might not just be Monday because of the snow, but it might be Tuesday and maybe again on Friday because of the wind chill values across the area. Your school district may be like my daughter's, where the kids don't go outside if the air temperature is 0, so that might not happen. Even when wind chills are 0, they might not go out for recess too. So again, a lot of factors at play for school districts. I know you want to make parents happy, but you want to keep kids safe, you want to keep teachers okay too, safe as well, and any other person that works at the school. So it's a lot of kind of a juggling act here on how to make things work. All right. Sandra asking about how much snow above the thumb. Yeah, you might be wondering, why isn't there really anything on there? Honestly, up north, they're really going to miss out on this system. So they're not expecting really any snow. Now, I will say I would maybe drag that 1 inch a little bit farther to the north, but most locations up there probably won't even get an inch either. So that is why there is that sharp cutoff that you see here. It's not because I only wanted to include Southeast Michigan. No, up here, they're not going to get snow from this system. Now, on the west side of the state, I like how I'm trying to put the arrow off to the side where you can't see. On the west side of the state, there will be a little bit of lake effect, more so Sunday night into Monday, but it does look to be more focused west of Grand Rapids, west of Kalamazoo, so kind of really hitting that corridor over there where you could pick up a couple inches, but they're really going to miss out on this storm for the most part. Like you can see the cutoff here. Still wouldn't travel along at 994 tomorrow. I think that's going to be the hardest hit highway, even towards the west side of the state. 96, you are going to see impacts until you get pretty much west of Lansing, and a little farther it should be a little bit better in terms of conditions. But yeah, if you don't have to go anywhere tomorrow, please don't. If you're flying tomorrow, just be prepared for delays. I mean, the storm system is so big that it's impacting all the major hubs. So it's not necessarily, oh, it's not so bad here in the morning, but your plane may be stuck somewhere else. So that's the thing. You probably have already been notified by your airline about potentially moving things around, but it's not going to be good tomorrow to be out and about. If you're just joining again, don't be shocked by this map. I feel like I need to say this with a disclaimer. The numbers really have not changed too much. And I want to highlight again, because I know it can be jarring, and I came in and I, bumped things up a little bit. But the two biggest changes that you're going to see here is from Sanilac County, Macomb, Oakland, down through Washtenaw County. You're now in the 5 to 7 range, because it's highly likely that you're going to look at 5 to 6 inches of snow rather than 4 to 5 inches of snow, if that makes it more clear. So again, that's only another inch to up to 2 inches more of snow than what we were previously looking at in that range. That more of us, though, it's about an inch difference. So I don't want it to be jarring here with like, oh my God, 5 to 7 inches now. We're definitely going to see the 7. No, actually, with the closer you are to that split between the lighter blue and the darker blue, that's closer to be the 5 inches total there. The other one, too, that might be jarring is the 7 inches plus. Well, originally in Monroe County, you were included in the 5 to 7 inches of snow, but now I've bumped it to 7 inches plus, because there's a good chance it'll be like 7 to 8 inches of snow for Monroe County, even including portions of southern Wayne County and then very eastern Lenawee County. There may also be just a spot or two that gets up to 9 inches. That's why I didn't do 7 to 8 inches, because I don't think 9 is necessarily out of the question, especially if it all comes together. I do not expect a widespread 9 inches of snow. Most of us will see about 7 inches of snow in that region. So just to not scare you when you see these totals and how they've been bumped up just a bit. I do expect a lot of us tomorrow. I think a lot of us will fall, especially in the Detroit metro area, between that 5 to 7 range, really hitting that 5 to 6 inches of snow tomorrow. And then the farther north and west, you can see lighter totals 3 to 5. And then finally up towards Flint and farther to the north, it'll be more 1 to 3 inches of some snow there. So hopefully that clarifies it just a bit. If you're wondering kind of what the type of snow is, it's pretty much going to be our kind of average snow, that we do have a lot of dry air and cold air in place, so it's likely to be more on the fluffier side, at least initially, before we tap into some of the moisture here. But I think it's pretty much just going to be average. I can't say that's really going to be a heavy wet snow, and I can't say that it's going to be a very fluffy dry with quick moving system rolling through. I definitely think it leans drier though than wet, and that usually impacts totals. That's why you can really get a fluffier snow, and that could be 1 inch rather than only being a quarter of an inch of snow that you could have with the heavier, wetter stuff. So yeah, I think we're going to lean drier with this, just based on the system that's rolling through, and us, of course, being on the northern edge, us having a lot of drier air in place right now, a lot of stuff to overcome. All right. Bobby hoping for 8 to 12. Well, you got to go somewhere else. Go south. I'm sorry, I'm reading a comment about Jeff, from Jeff. I like this, Jeff. Yeah, talking about, 80s and 70s, we're much colder. I will say the minus 13 degrees was set back in the 80s. I don't remember the exact date, but that is the record high, a low for today, minus 13. So we didn't set a new record. Our temperature this morning was minus 10 in Detroit. But our record was minus 13, or still is, and that was set back in the 80s. But yeah, it's cold. We just haven't had this cold of air in about 7 years. So I feel like, sometimes we need a little refresher that, yes, this can happen in Michigan. Yes, we get big winter storms. Yes, we can have cold temperatures like we just had today, and then what we're also going to see for this extended week. So, sometimes we have mild conditions. I feel like that especially the last 2 winters have been relatively mild. This winter just has been not as mild, but it's definitely something that has happened in years past, whether it be in the last 10 years or 20 years or even the last, 50 years. We can have big swings in our weather like this, and it's not uncommon. We're here in Michigan too. A lot of times the lakes around us help keep us warmer. They're just not doing that. We just have so much Arctic air in place at the moment, so that's what's keeping us pretty cold. All right, so yes, got some questions. Larry first, wind blowing, drifting snow. I don't expect that to be as big of an issue following this system, and actually with this system, winds tomorrow are going to be around about 10 miles per hour. Gusts will be up to about 20, and then we'll also see similar winds on Monday. So I don't expect the winds to be as strong. We should not see as much blowing snow as what we've had with previous systems, because those storms, wind gusts were about 30 to 40, sustained winds were up to 20. So winds won't be as strong with this system because we're on the edge of it. So that's some good news there. All right, I've got a couple questions coming in about timing of this system. So let's backtrack and break this down. Right now, not going to roll a couple of flurries tonight, but overall, we really don't see the snow pick up until after midnight tonight. And then overnight tonight, snow will be showers. We're trying to overcome some dry air that is in place. If you've been out and about today, you know it's cold, but it's also very, very dry. The air is so dry, your throat gets dry very quickly too. So indicating a lot of dry air in place. So overnight tonight, we're going to continue to get some snow falling into that dry air, eventually making the entire column of air saturated. And once that happens, we'll get more and more of the snow. It's also when we get a lot more of the moisture moving in. So between about midnight tonight and 8 a.m., be prepared for snow showers, with most of us picking up about an inch south of I-96. There could be a couple spots near 2 inches already by sunrise tomorrow. Farther to the north, it really won't be much initially when you're waking up. But then after about 8 o'clock, we'll really start to see more of the moisture move in through the lunch hour, and then our steadiest snow and our most accumulation will be happening through the afternoon. If you see, there's really no breaks. There's a lot of snow rolling on through, especially after about noon all the way through the end of this event. This is 5 o'clock, so this isn't the end just yet. But as we continue through the evening, snow ends on the west side around 7, and then pretty much it's out of here for the rest of us by 8 o'clock. So what I'm really focusing on is between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. is when we're going to have the snow really start to accumulate, and then especially in the afternoon, after about 1 o'clock through 7 p.m., that's when we'll have the steadiest snow, the most accumulation across the area. So hopefully that clears things up. If you're hoping to go somewhere tomorrow morning, just be prepared for slippery road conditions. Even if you don't have a lot of snow yet, by tomorrow morning, it is so cold that salt is not going to work on the ice or the snow. So there will be a lot of slippery spots across the area if you're going somewhere tomorrow morning. I do expect conditions to worsen throughout the day, and it's going to be the worst to drive in the afternoon and evening tomorrow with those higher accumulations expected. But really, snow should end by 8 o'clock almost everywhere. Of course, you can see a little bit of snow up here, up towards the tip of the thumb. We're going to have some lake enhancement from Lake Huron, and then actually some lake effect snow showers. The difference is lake enhancement is when you have the lakes kind of enhance the amount of snow because it's tacking into the moisture from the lake, and then lake effect snow is not associated with the system. It's focused more on the winds, and then that causes lake effect snow. Did you like my winds? Those are my northeast winds. That's why I did that. Anyway, so that kind of explains the difference. There are two different things there. But pretty much the snow is done by 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. So hopefully crews will be out and about to help conditions for Monday morning. Still, with that said, I do expect snow closures for schools on Monday because of the snow falling tomorrow, even though there will be quite a few hours where no snow is expected tomorrow night. Hopefully that clears things up. Also, again, we talked about temperatures. There is the potential that we have schools closed on Tuesday and maybe Friday because of bitterly cold wind chills. Right now, it's looking to be around 15 degrees below zero at the worst. And some schools have been closing when wind chills are expected to be that cold in the morning. So keep an eye on that too. There may be more than just one day closed this week. And if you keep wondering why my eyes are shifting this way, I'm looking at comments. This is where my comments are. They're off away from the camera. So please ask your questions. I will be in tomorrow too, tracking all of this. I plan to start a live probably around noon tomorrow. It may be a little bit after that, just to kind of track the steadier snow as it rolls on through. We'll have radar looping here too, so you're able to see it. But I want to just be here to help you. Thankfully, I mean, maybe it's a good thing that this is happening on a Sunday because, you know, a lot of us really don't have a lot of places to be, especially the second half of the day on Sunday. Hopefully, I know I'm a mom too. I get it. We've got something every day, right? We always have to be somewhere. But hopefully, though, you know, you're not having to commute to work. Or you don't have to go somewhere on Sunday. Just keep it chill inside. Just watch the snow fall outside. So hopefully you have a safe place to be and a warm place to be as well. Tomorrow, even though we do have the snow, it's not going to be warm. Highs will only be in the mid to upper teens tomorrow. So not very good across the area. All right, I'm going to go back to that snowfall map again, just for you guys all to see it. It has been updated a bit. Totals have been bumped up just a bit. This may look jarring and be like, oh my gosh, we're expecting a lot more. But honestly, most places that are now in a different range, you're only expecting about 1 inch more than you previously were looking at. So places that were into the 3 to 5 that are now in the 5 to 7, it's because instead of looking at likely 4 to 5, which is what you were looking at, you're now looking at more like 5 to 6 inches of snow. So that's what we're looking at. Don't be shocked by the 7 inches also down in Monroe. Those locations, those were originally in the 5 to 7. I think there's just a much better chance to see 7, maybe 8 inches of snow, and there may be 1 or 2 spots that get 9. I do not expect 9 inches widespread, but that's again what we're looking at with this system. So hopefully that helps it out. I know, Eddie, talking about salt. The one problem with salt, again, with this system, and then also the following days, it is just going to be too cold. Salt really becomes ineffective when temperatures are below about 15 degrees, and we are looking at highs only in the teens for the next week. Lows will be in the single digits, close to 0 as well. So salt, unfortunately, is not going to work that well in the situation. We've got to get the snow cleared. So that is going to be the most important thing. So hopefully we can get a lot of the snow cleared Sunday night before people do go out on Monday and drive on it, because once you compact that, of course, that's harder to break down. So we'll hopefully get through that on Monday. All right. I like this. Some people are like, February 1978, 8 inches of snow. Yeah, we've definitely had our good snowstorm. So we'll see how this one pans out. I feel pretty confident about these numbers. There's a good agreement based on the track of the storm system too, but again, things can always change. Whether you get 4 inches of snow and you're in the 5 to 7 range, you know, you were prepared to have to shovel snow anyways, right? But I think that we are at least looking at very impactful snow. I know we really focus on snowfall totals, but what I really want you to focus on is the fact that it is going to snow tomorrow. Heaviest snow and most accumulation will be in the afternoon and evening tomorrow. So if you can avoid being out during those times, that would be best. And then just be prepared to shovel and or use a snow blower at some point tomorrow to prepare you for the week ahead. And then next week is going to be cold too. So I'm here for you guys. If you have any questions, keep them coming. I'll keep posted on social media too, and answering your questions. Otherwise, I'll be on tonight on TV 20. You can tune in at 10 o'clock, and then we'll be on at some point after the Lakers Mavericks game tonight, 11:30, midnight. You know, you can stay up, whatever. But otherwise, I'll also join you tomorrow. Brett Cass will be in the morning, and then I'll be in here on live throughout the afternoon. So you'll see me on Facebook. You can also follow me on YouTube and other things as well here on this channel, tracking it live. And then we'll have our shows again tomorrow night, and hopefully by the time we get to that 10, 11 o'clock, we can kind of seal all this up with a beautiful big snowy white bow, and then we can move on to the colder air that's on the way for next week. All right, I hope you kind of get a little bit of my sarcasm. Trying to make light, of course, with this winter system, but of course it's always important. Safety is key, and I am here for you. I want you to be safe over the next about 24 hours, again, with the snowy conditions, and honestly the next week with the cold weather continuing. Please check on your neighbors and friends. Make sure that they are warm, and I will see you guys over the next couple of days. Have a good one, everyone.